for Protoss versus Zerg. We'll start off in the bottom right-hand side. He had an amazing group stage performance, coming out in second place, ahead of Trap even. And fantastic to see him here. It is MaxPax, Red Protoss in the bottom right. And maybe most importantly to say, obviously 2-0'd Solar in the process in that group stage.
And his opponent in the top left, playing for Alphax, it is RagnaroK.
RagnaroK, our reigning WardiTV. I guess he's the WardiTV 2020 champion, right? We kind of refer to this event, I guess, as the sequel to WardiTV 2020. And he won that event. Like, what a run he had in that. And I don't think he had like the most difficult bracket out there, but he still went through some freaking names on his way to winning it. In the group stages, he beat Innovation and Q and got top of the group. Went through the playoffs against, I think, Uthil and Solar to beat, and then met Cure again in the finals. A Cure who had beaten Reno in the same event in the playoffs, and he 4-0'd Cure, and it was like, wow, RagnaroK, like, when did you show up to just kind of become an absolute beast? So, excited to see him. I'll stop talking because there's a Forge down, and I'm sure we want to talk about this Cannon Rush upcoming.
Yeah, he's gonna cancel it, I was about to say, because RagnaroK actually went pool first. So this is a build order advantage for RagnaroK, a very, very big one. On Romanticide, if you cannon rush against a Hedge first Zerg, unless you're pre-patrolling a drone in the pylon spot, you cannot hold it. So RagnaroK is playing it safe there with the pool gas before the Hedge. And that just means that MaxPax needed to cancel a Forge, which is not the worst thing possible. The gateway still isn't way too late. He still has his gas up early. So overall, he just basically lost a couple of minerals from the Forge cancel and didn't get to play what he prepared. But other than that, we're gonna see a more standard early game with Zerg having more map control because of earlier speed. But other than that, standard.
You mentioned earlier that MaxPax is kind of a fan of them Void Rays into the Disruptors, right? And playing it, differently there. What do you think is there any like specific strengths to that or weaknesses in comparison to what we might usually see from the Protoss with the Storm and so on?
So the strengths are definitely that you are safer against the big timings with many queens, because queens can split against disruptors. Any Roach, Ravager, Hydra based attacks, you're safer against. It is a little bit worse probably at defending the very late Hydra Bane timings, because you simply don't have the same amount of AoE production later on, because usually it's just one robo pumping out one disruptor at a time. So against the later timings, when the Zerg doesn't hit a timing as sharp as I possibly could, it is better, and it's also a little bit easier to go into late game for the Zerg player against it, because they don't have ground upgrades really, nor do they have like early charge or Archons. So you can get away with more drones and have a nicer transition into the late game as Zerg, whereas attacking is harder.
Alright. Well, there's our first Void Ray of the series starting on up. It's the first of many, I'm sure. And it's just going to rally out onto this forward Overlord. So Void Ray is going to be able to look to pick up this kill in the next few moments, and the Adept pulling back home. And I feel like he's going to come and chase that Adept away, but otherwise everything kind of looking as we would want it to. Kind of eyes on we kind of know where, or expect to know where MaxPax is going to take this. So my eyes are kind of on RagnaroK just to see exactly what he wants to do in these early stages and exactly how he wants to approach the next couple of minutes here.
He already saw that MaxPax is going for a very early double gas, so this is not the normal 2 Stargate, this is the mana version where you go to second Stargate before third Nexus. He still gets the second Stargate almost at the same time as the normal version where you just get the third Nexus first, but he's lacking some gas this game because he had to go Cybercore before a second simulator, so that might be the reason for that.
We're going to get a cancel on a Spore Crawler there, and a new Spore will build a little bit further back as MaxPax goes up to the top side, and he's going to see a couple of Spores continuing through. Then he's going to find himself a single drone, and thought about going for another, but unable to find anything with it. So yeah, not bad though. I mean, nice little bit of damage with the Void Ray poking around, and obviously now going to hold back for future Void Rays as well. There's our second Stargate before the third base, as you alluded to, and the shield battery dropping down in the mineral line as well, so everything still lining up to just play defensively at home with the Void Rays to harass out on the map.
Yeah, MaxPax also really likes just running across the map with 2 random adapts, and it's very important that RagnaroK actually saw this, because I don't think he had any Zerglings. Oh, he actually does have 10 Zerglings already. And he even kept them at home. But usually you want to be at the other side of the map with these Zerglings just to make sure you get the scouting info off. Which he knows not to do now, since he saw the 2-Adepts leave. Oh, this is a fancy location for the stasis ward and no vision there from RagnaroK.
Yeah, that's one we've seen a couple of times on the stream in the last couple of months, but not very regularly, and it almost always works because, like you say, there's not much vision in that sort of location, right? The Void Ray cleans out any overload that's over there, so yeah, it leads to that stasis, and only catches a few drones, but still better than nothing. He's going to go for round 2. This time an overload does move into position, and it's only going to be 1 drone caught. Nicely handled.
And we already see the Robo follow-up and the +1 air upgrades. Obviously, you also can keep making Void Rays and you go for an earlier carrier transition with this. So that's a difference that we can already see in the builds. If you want to copy this, that's what you have to look out for, just getting an earlier Robo instead of the Forged Twilight that we saw from Zest pretty much every game, right?
Yes, there is always Forged Twilight on the follow-up, and this time we see that Robo facility and now into a Forge and the Robo base. So, again, kind of as we've been alluding to, this is how MaxPax likes to play this out. As, is there a lot of pros players that play like this? Because to me, it was only really MaxPax that I've seen doing this.
It's Mana who's doing this every game already for quite some time, and now it's MaxPax as well.
Yes.
And I believe Stats started trying it, at least according to Solar.
That's a dead Hydra den, as the Void Rays just show up here, and that's a big stasis as well. Sorry, actually it's not a big stasis, it's only a couple of drones. I saw the Broodlings get caught. I was like, oh my god, so many stasis warded things. It's actually mostly just the Broodlings, but now you get a Queen kill as well, so these Voids continue to find good damage over here, and obviously a huge delay on the Hydra den. Gonna make cleaning up these Voids that much more difficult.
I mean, why would you make the Hydra den there? Like, let's be honest here for a second. The Void Rays, the Void Rays can only come in from so many angles. Like, this is the worst position for the Hydra den to be. Like, I actually watched Showtime analyze some replay of Solar against Trap, I believe it was, and then you saw that he built the pool to where the Void Rays fly in from, and then he was like, no fucking way he puts his pool there every time. And that's bad already, but putting the Hydra in there, that's even worse, to be honest. So, decent start from MaxPax, who's also now trying to get his fourth base up, and also is getting the Fleet Beacon plus the Disruptors. And RagnaroK is doing something very similar to what Rainer has been doing on Jagannatha. He's gearing up for the 80 drone Hydra Bane timing, which is exactly what we saw basically on the map before, just this time with a different unit composition from the Protoss.
Yep, there's a lot of the upgrades coming through here that's going to power up this kind of Vayne Hydra style. Obviously, MaxPax's Disruptor count is underway. The first one's already taken to the map, and the next coming through. So, as he gets to a fourth base, he's just going to have himself these Disruptors to help hold off attacks. And like you said, it's harder to attack into this, right? Because you've got to push into those Disruptors. They are going to be very good at controlling these, these areas. And it's obviously an insta-kill if that Disruptor shot connects. It's not like the Storm where you kind of bait the Storm, you back away, you maybe take a bit of damage. If you take damage off that Disruptor, you are losing like a chunk of Hydras usually. Yeah.
This is going to be the latest Hydra Bane timing I've ever seen. Because he needs to wait for Hydra speed, right? Otherwise, I'm not sure how he's going to split his Hydras.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, if you run in with that Hydra speed, these Disruptors are going to completely control the game. As he goes in, he's just going to cancel a few of these Banes. He'll fire another warning shot, and for the moment, RagnaroK backs away, but it's not going to scare him off fully. He is morphing 22 more Banelands. He's fully committed to trying to make this work. There's plenty of sentries here as well, so there's force fields to also help out. I mean, obviously it comes down to execution and control, but I see MaxPax holding this as long as he pulls that off correctly. That's not the best of first force fields, but there's plenty more to come, as the first Disruptor shot doesn't really connect either, and MaxPax is also going to be having to defend from that right-hand side.
Yeah, those were pretty bad Disruptor shots, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he can't get through the choke. Like, the sentries here are very, very important for MaxPax. And now that the first carrier is out, he just needs to make sure to hold position the Void Rays so they can start attacking the Banelings. The Disruptors are very tanky, so they're not dying yet against the Banelings, but only one Disruptor left.
Yeah, I mean, the Void Rays and the carrier get back, but there's still quite a lot of Hydras and Queens up. I really feel like you mentioned those Disruptor shots weren't great. I kind of thought it was alright because he'd be able to hold off for a bit longer, but RagnaroK pushed his way through here before the Disruptors came back off cooldown. And, I was talking about having to execute this properly still. This was absolutely not it, right? I mean, the Disruptor shots didn't hit anything at all in the end, and The Banelings actually really got through for decent damage, cleaning up a lot of stuff on the ground. And now the Hydra Queen count is just too high. I don't think the Void Ray carry will ever hold this off. So, streaming through, RagnaroK looking as though he's going to take over the natural expansion, perhaps just take over game number 1.
Yeah, I've talked about this a little bit earlier, where I said if you hit the Hydra timings later, the Hydra Bane timings, that's where it's better to play against the Disruptors rather than High Templars, because once you have 8 guys, obviously you can start pumping out Archons and High Templars, which are great against the higher numbers of Banelings, but he just really makes one Disruptor at a time, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, as RagnaroK takes it, what I was talking about is basically, like, it didn't matter as much that RagnaroK really hit his timing poorly, to be honest. Because he obviously hit the timing poorly because he lost the Hydra then, and then he needed to wait for a Hydra speed eventually. But you want to attack like a full minute earlier than what RagnaroK was doing, but it ended up being fine because yeah, there's no timer. Like the timer would be like a carrier count of like 4 or higher, or a lot of Archons and High Templars, which is both not the case here.
Yeah, there's only 3 disruptors when this attack happens, and when you whiff like the first two shots, and they're just on cooldown for like another 2 or 3 seconds, so he can just move in, and there's no threat to any of the Banelings. Like the only thing you can do is force field, but he used up all the force fields, and once those were gone, it was just a wide open pathway to victory for RagnaroK. Yeah, it was worked out well.
With what RagnaroK does on ZVP in general, but this is, for example, is not a map where you need to be afraid of cannon rushes, at least.
All right, well, we'll see if he will stand by that. Is in the bottom right from Alpha X, our blue Zerg player is RagnaroK.
And in the top left, his opponent, down a map, the Red Protoss for Team Axon, MaxPax.
Yeah, I mean, great run from him so far just in the event, but go ahead, as you were about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to say also there's a difference in that MaxPax doesn't always block. Like Zest would just block the Natural of Rainier every single game, right? That's what we saw. Whereas MaxPax just tries to do his own stuff, be safe, and then kind of go on with his game plan rather than disrupting the Zerg too much. Which he actually ended up doing with the cancelled Hydra then, but besides that, mostly he just wants to macro up, do his own stuff, and I would not be too surprised if we see that again. For a while, MaxPax has only been doing Glaives into Colossus All-ins, which this would be a better map for. So if he was to mix it up, I would like to see it on Lightshade, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually think some of the Colossus styles can be pretty fun, like on a follow-up, right? And they can be particularly, especially if you end up going Link Bane Hydra, right? Colossus can be pretty effective on some timings too, so... It'd be cool to see. I honestly, I'm just a fan of something that, something or anything that just looks a bit different. Like, so the disruptor style, the disruptor style alone is already like actually a little bit more exciting because it is newer. Like you said, Mana's been doing it a bit, right? That's the player that I did see do it a little bit more as well. Mana, MaxPax. I haven't seen stats do it personally, but like at least that, and then it becomes different to like the usual Void Ray setup. So. Anything that's different, I will accept with open arms in PvZ at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. It still sadly goes after exactly the same opening, and it goes into the exact same unit composition. So probably not the most exciting. Maybe a little bit more explosive where it comes down to the disruptor connections. But yeah, I think this is not the player where we're gonna see too much mix-up. Sadly, if you want to see different stuff, maybe someone more like Hearthstone who can also play more standard. He's one of the last Protosses that plays more standard. I know Drogo sometimes still plays standard, but everyone else is kind of on a 2 Stargate hype train, and for a good reason. I mean, we saw it in the last series, right?
I've not seen Drogo play Starcraft in general for a long time, actually. He just doesn't play in tournaments, so you don't see anything of him if you don't see him on ladder, I guess.
Yeah, he's been streaming yesterday, and I was checking for who to raid, and I saw that he was running around with Glaive Adepts, and I was like, we need to reward this immediately, and I raided him.
We need more people to see these Glaive Adepts. Go on, Drogo, do them justice. Make people play Adepts again.
Exactly.
Alright, cool. Well, we do see a second gateway from MaxPax just walling off. The Stargate is done in the main base. Again, I feel like I'm just dictating the same start of the story once again, so very much so a case of just setting up and getting ready to build here. RagnaroK gonna choose this forward third hatchery and just kind of play from there.
Yeah, I actually one thing, since this is just starting off exactly the same as the other games, I saw that I was monitoring the betting on your stream for the series, and RagnaroK was the heavy favorite, and then someone put like 200k points or something on MaxPax, so they're gonna want to see MaxPax winning for sure.
Yeah, it's true. We've got highest bet on MaxPax, 250k points, which means it's actually only a 54-46 RagnaroK favor. But that's obviously in terms of points, not an
Yeah.
exact amount of people, right? So
And yeah, and that was just one person, like 250k points. That's like a year of watching the stream basically. So that's insane.
it,
That's
depends who you are. For slowly falling, that's just like a couple of days actually. Like, did
Yeah.
you hear this about slowly falling and how much you watch my stream? Like, my Twitch summary is this Voidray gets a kill, needs to get out of there. My Twitch summary said something like, you've streamed 1,769 hours of Starcraft 2. I was like, oh, that's kind of a lot. And everyone's like, oh yeah, I watched like 400. I've got 300 on the Wardy stream. I was like, nice squad. Slowly has like 1,700 hours. She only missed like, I think if you add it up, she basically missed the first 5 minutes of every stream or something, right? Like, it was like, like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, what? I didn't even have that many hours watched on my own channel.
It's slowly just a bot. That's the question.
I mean,
because those numbers, they don't even make sense, honestly.
Hey, roaches. Talk to me about these.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a Nidus, right? Or a Queen Walk. How many queens does he have? 6, 2 more. I mean, this is a very short map, so it's probably a Queen Walk more so than a Nidus, because you can get over there very fast. He didn't start overload speed, so it's not the taxi. I think this is a strategy that can be pretty decent, but only on short maps, because if you do this on big maps, the Void Rays can counterattack, kill a base, and then once that happens, they can just kind of sack their own third base while trying to get like Immortal, Shield Battery, Void Ray in their natural. So as long as you do this and the Protoss doesn't realize they can counterattack, then the Protoss needs to defend their third base, which is then very hard for the Protoss. For example, I think this looks already very good for RagnaroK. I do not think you can defend your third base if the Zerg micros this properly, so I wonder what MaxPax is thinking here. I guess just as many Void Rays as possible with as many shield batteries as possible.
Yep, just getting his... he's actually got a front line of cannons coming up as well, which will be some decent damage output if they survive. Obviously, you've got those Ravagers, which are going to dive right on through. They're going to set the first set of battles up. The Voids have to pull back away from that. Super Battery active in the back, so that will stay alive for a while. And the Voids are going to get a chance here to get rid of a couple of Ravagers at least, but then they eat a couple of Biles, and every single Bile they eat is damage, which just makes the Queen's life that much easier, as now they're going to see the Biles going onto the batteries. They die, and well, there's still a little bit of life left on these Void Rays, but there's so many Queens here, and we just don't really have the numbers at the moment for MaxPax. Now, it may get a bit better if you can reinforce this a little bit. He is coming through. The Queen count is starting to lower, and he doesn't have an endless amount of transfusions, so maybe there is still some slight hope, but I think if he does clean this up, it might still be after the third base goes down.
And we see RagnaroK already starting a Hydra and extra drones at the back, so I think this should be fine. Now, this was a very committed attack, don't get me wrong. Like, there are no Evo chambers, no nothing at home, but he didn't even clear up all the army. Like, if he loses the third base here, MaxPax that is, and he at least cleans up all the queens, and then he tries to, you know, do something on the other side of the map, I would be feeling this a little bit more for him. He is going to counterattack now, which I'm very surprised by.
Yeah, I mean, there's still Ling Roach Ravager Queen on your front doorstep, and you've got an Immortal and a cannon. And now a couple of Queens, a couple of Void Rays turn back around to help out, and now they don't quite know what they want to do. I mean, these Voids across the map are going to activate, and they're going to kill the third base of RagnaroK, so it's going to work for the moment. I mean, these Immortals are dealing some decent damage, I guess, and I want to say that momentarily this is at least looking better than it should have been, as Hydra's spawning straight into Void Rays, and oh my god, the Void Ray survives as well. Is this happening?
Tell you something? He built the Hydra at the front of the third base.
So
the Voiders didn't only kill the third base, they killed the Hydra, then again RagnaroK, what are you doing? Oh no.
Recalls these Voids away, he loses one of them, but now it's a cleanup back at home. So MaxPax kind of puts this down at 2 bases on 2 bases. RagnaroK's got a 4th on the bottom side that will finish to give him an extra hatchery to mine from. But now the Void Ray count builds up, and obviously the Hydra count isn't going anywhere for, I guess, a couple more moments. Hydra Den will finish, but these are Hydras that don't have any upgrades for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't mind this position as much anymore for MaxPax. He already has a very fortified natural, which is a problem against his Hydra type attacks. Usually, so now he can spend all his money basically on fortifying his third base, and it's not like he needs to take a fourth base anytime soon. And it's not like RagnaroK is gonna go late game from here either. So I feel like just getting up carrier disruptor and a lot of cannons, even on 3 base, to be honest, which kind of looks like a diamond strategy, but in this scenario, it's very, very strong, I feel like. So I don't mind it anymore for MaxPax, to be honest.
You can see the voids are coming around the right side, and obviously with the map control he gets from those voids. Oh my god, what? This Hydroden, right? I just clicked on the natural. I was like, no way. Yeah, there's no way he's not gonna kill this. It just dies. Please, Hydra upgrades. Ragnarok. What even are you?
Okay, behind the main base. Okay. Thank you, RagnaroK. This is the like this is where you put your buildings in front of the third, and then at exactly the one area where the Warriors are obviously gonna run in from. I can't believe this.
How many times can your Hydroden just be in the worst possible place? Okay, right. I mean, the problem is this is just giving MaxPax more and more setup time. The fleet beacon finished a long time ago. I pointed out while he was under attack, he started a fleet beacon, and I didn't really mention it. I just zoomed in on it. I was like, in my mind, I was like, I don't know what that's for, but it's for now having carriers here for the inevitability, I guess, that he was going to be able to counterattack, deal damage, and survive. So good forward thinking of MaxPax, and now he gets into that carrier disruptor setup, and RagnaroK's just going to start the infestation, but so looking towards a hive, and I imagine some vipers.
The one thing that's looking really bad for RagnaroK are his upgrades. Like he's working on +1. Now Rotti would already have +3 air upgrades, but is MaxPax, so it's only +1. But still, having no carapace upgrades against carriers is always very bad for the Hydra-based player. And now as a Zerg player, you're like, okay, what units should he really make? He needs a hive and then vipers, preferably. And then if there are High Templars, which is the next step from MaxPax, those won't work either. So he needs something against the carriers, which is preferably Corruptors, but then there's already Void Rays. So there's just so many different units that you need to make now as Zerg. So even though he's completely outmining him, his army composition still needs a lot of work to be able to be competitive with what MaxPax has.
It's tough. You know, it's kind of like a bit of this, a bit of that, and then trying to make it all work and kind of find the right things with the right things, and it's not easy, as MaxPax is going to set up his own 4th base. He's also going to make a move down this bottom side of the map, and you know, there's a lot of stuff building right now from RagnaroK. 1/1 melee upgrades, the hive, the Bane Nest, a lot of things. You know, there's been an infestation that built to give you that hive. These are all things which have not come into play just yet, right? So this is an opportunity right now for MaxPax to push forward and get some damage done. And these Hydras, they still don't have Hydra speed, so they have the creep to help them out, but the Disruptors have a pretty good chance of catching them still.
Absolutely. This is a good split here. Only gets a single Hydra. But I mean, so far he's only been trading Interceptors for some Hydras, which isn't too bad. I would love to see some more Disruptor shots going out as he's retreating. But he's getting caught a little bit here.
He gets the Disruptor shot available now. A couple of these Hydras split forward and they'll go down. This is an Immortal as well. The problem is these Interceptors obviously need to rebuild to kind of be powerful once more. MaxPax, I feel like this is going forward a bit too soon. He only has 1 Disruptor shot available. That is it. It hits absolutely nothing. And now, what's to stop these Hydras just kind of moving on through? I still don't quite believe in the Interceptor count. And a new Disruptor shows up, but they're already surrounded by Zerglings. He's going to fire a warning shot more than anything. And the Lings are still looking for that Disruptor. They won't quite get it. Another carrier shows up as well. Maybe just MaxPax trying to go a little bit too soon here, right? The idea of just moving in a little bit too early. The carrier's just not quite at the numbers they needed to be at.
Yeah, does he have a Templar Archives already? Okay, he does. I think he's gonna morph them into Icons, but he really needs High Templars right now. I think it's very essential. Okay, he is keeping them in Templar mode. As long as he like maxes out with some High Templars to deter the Vipers, there's literally no unit that can zone out High Templars right now. Like, he's trying to get to Ultras, but with this Void Ray count, you can just focus fire Ultras, especially because they don't have great Carapace upgrades. So I think what MaxPax should do is chill, max out, and then attack.
We're going to be seeing a couple Lings moving in, and just going to have the High Templar there to pick off those Lings. Yeah, MaxPax is going to hang back, and Kindness Playing coming through. There's a lot of Hydras through the center of the map as Yeah, I think MaxPax sitting back and just holding off, waiting for that storm of the upgrades is the approach here. He's still got the disruptors to help him out as well. How much danger is he in right now without the storms being ready? Kind of feels pretty dangerous, right? First abduct comes down and he hits a feedback on the Viper that already abducted, so still 3 full energy Vipers ready to go.
Yeah, it's scary, but as a Zerg, you don't exactly know how many High Templars there are still. If he knew, he obviously would stay there and try to abduct units one by one, but now that he sees there are already High Templars, he's trying to go into a late game. Oh, he actually cancelled a Spire earlier, so he also has 0 Spire upgrades, so transitioning into Corruptors is gonna be very rough. And I mean, he's completely outmining MaxPax already for a long time now. I'm not sure if you can do the income graph, but that must be looking fantastic for RagnaroK for sure.
Yeah, shift dive for the income if you want to see yourself, but it has been ridiculous for RagnaroK. It's a mountain, and MaxPax has to find a way to kind of chip away at that. As right now, it's RagnaroK that's just making life more difficult for MaxPax. He's pulling probes away, so RagnaroK's income lead is only going to be increasing from here, and it's just at that point where you can just throw units at the Protoss player a few times over, and as long as you're slowing down the economy and keeping your own economy up a little bit, it's one of those things which is kind of more like an eventuality of when you're going to win out rather than if you're going to win out or not.
Yeah, he also managed to pick off all the Void Rays besides one. So going into Corruptors right now is very viable again, because there's not really that much anti-Corruptor. There are no Archons, and it's mostly just carriers. So I still think MaxPax is just gonna try to max out and then do a timing. But if RagnaroK has a decent amount of Spore Crawlers, he should be able to defend this. What I would love to see is the moment MaxPax actually moves out, he goes for counterattack with most of his units. I think that's the way to play this right now as a Zerg.
Yeah, especially with the Ultras, right? Just dive on into a base, and if MaxPax is trying to get across, he's going to be pretty much forced to be all in because he'll have basically 0 income behind it to rebuild. So I'm with you, as right now Bane's actually crashed through on the top side and get 12 workers, and again, it's just that idea of RagnaroK. The more he slows down that MaxPax economy, the harder it is for MaxPax to ever max out. The harder it is for him to max out, the harder it will ever be for him to win this game, because by the time he maxes out, RagnaroK's essentially going to have the money for 2 different armies to throw at this Protoss force.
Yeah, it still might be hard to trade out the army that he has right now, because it's mostly Hydras against carriers, which aren't great. Oh no, we're putting probes into the Hydras.
Yeah, a couple of storms. Actually going to be good, really good storms. Saves the Nexus. That's a win for MaxPax. At least gets a good few Hydras for it, but now your Nexus is also on 83 HP, so you got to really protect it. Otherwise, it's gonna fall over at the slightest gust of wind.
Yeah, I mean, but there goes the bank of RagnaroK. RagnaroK has a lot of upgrades on the way right now, and he's now switching to Corruptors. And what does he exactly have to zone out the Archons? How many Ultras does he have? 4?
Yeah.
I guess it's fine because there are not that many Void Rays, but there's... The ground army doesn't look very beefy from MaxPax, but it actually is quite... It has a lot of HP in there. With the Archons, the Disruptors also are pretty tanky against Zerg. So if he gets the Ultras down before they get anywhere, which is exactly what's happening, this is looking decent. Good parasitic bombs though.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing these carriers though again one-shot by the Corruptors, and the Archons do not survive on the ground, so these Corruptors are just going to continue to clean out the carriers, and the supply of MaxPax is dropping rapidly. She is cold. RagnaroK is going to take game number 2, and that is going to be him in the 2-0, obviously, driver's seat of this series, and looking fantastic right now here against MaxPax. Just seems to get himself into such a good position. I don't mind the logic behind it. As we kick off into game number 1, we start off down in the bottom left-hand side with the red Protoss player yet to win a map in the series from Team Exxon, but maybe this is chance here on Jagnatha. It is MaxPax.
And his opponent, he just needs one more map to close out the series. The blue Zerg player for Alpha X, RagnaroK.
Alright, so RagnaroK gonna send the drone out down the bottom side of the map, so he's already looking for something a little bit fun here, looking to try and block MaxPax's opening expansion, and that's a bit of a change of pace from our Zerg player.
Going for the hatch first on the other side, so you will always get this down. The more economic version for the Zerg player is to go 2 hatch before pool, and you need to cut drones a little bit, but that's better for you because you will have a hatchery on your side of the map, whereas now he needs to go gas pool. So this ends up being more or less an opening where the Zerg usually go gas pool hatch, and the Protoss just has a delayed Nexus, so if both players play this correctly, it usually just ends up relatively even.
Yep. Feels like people kind of really got this figured out right a lot of the time in terms of what they need to do and how to play this and the correct responses. He is going to pull down the 5 probes as he starts the Cyber Core, so just going to go for the probes and the Zealot to shut this down and make sure this Nexus is able to drop down still relatively well timed, with hopefully this hatchery dying off in the near future.
I actually wouldn't know if I was off-racing the exact response to this, but I'm pretty sure most Protoss players, as you said, had that figured out. But I feel like MaxPax was doubting his own response a little bit there because he could have had that second pylon a lot earlier. I feel like he thought about just getting Nexus before the pylon, but now he's a little bit supply blocked.
Yeah.
So
A little bit of a shame. There's like the 2 different common openings or the common response to this, which is either you go double gate or you just go for like the 5 probe pull. And this time he just chooses like the 5 probe pull, so maybe he was just a little bit. Maybe he chose that instead of like when he usually would go double gateway. I don't know. Maybe that's got something to play. As obviously you don't want to let that drone do anything else here, so it is being chased around. Nexus gets to be placed. And yeah, I mean, you look at it in comparison to the hatchery timings and so on the other side of the map, and it honestly feels okay. It doesn't feel like it's too far behind where it needs to be.
yeah, it's pretty standard. He also blocked the natural of RagnaroK on the other side, so that's a little bit annoying. But he decided to go for Adept and second gas before the Nexus, so Nexus is still pretty late. At the same time, his Stargate timing should be decent. Because he went for that second gas, he also didn't get his second gas blocked, which would have been very annoying. So a little bit of a different start, which is kind of what we wished for, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna go into the same old in a little bit.
Yeah, as you have our feelings down that right-hand side, I'm just going to be seeing the Stargate, drones, sling speed. I mean, at least we had a bit of a different opener, right? And now we can wait for the double Stargate Void to get going. Exciting times.
Yeah, he's actually going for the follow-up scout. He was super afraid. I feel like he went 3 adapts. This is already the 3rd adapt that he's been producing, and a shield battery, and a wall off, an early wall off. So, like with the Stargate and the wall, MaxPax playing it giga safe here. This is basically how you want to play against the gas pool hatch opener if you want to be super safe. So overall, I like this a little bit better for RagnaroK so far this early game.
Yeah. I think it's definitely nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I really don't have anything out, honestly. I'm kind of stuck in a cast in this. You know, I shouldn't have put 2 PvZs back to back, man. Like, I've run out of things to say already.
Well,
yeah, I mean, double Voidra instead of an Oracle? That's cool, right?
Exactly.
There's a difference.
That's a mix-up right there. There's a mix-up already.
Yes, I found the one thing to talk about. Go me. Bonus points.
Good job. Also, he's trying to get 3rd Nexus before double gas and second Stargate, so again, another mix-up. It can't be any fake though, so because his Stargate is obviously in the wall, so you can just at any moment in time check if there's Void Risk producing and you know what build order is coming. So that's a little bit annoying for him probably. And he's actually going Twilight, so we're gonna see a different follow-up. It's a fake double Stargate into probably a big Glaive attack, which will hit insanely late. Like insane. This Glaive is gonna be done when there are Hydras out, to be honest. So I'm very surprised to see this Twilight.
Yeah, it's very, very off from where you would kind of expect it to be, but definitely part of the mind games, I guess, right? The idea of being like, oh, look, I've got at least 2 Void Rays already. Don't mind me, don't you worry about anything else. And then I guess you try and strike with something off that Twilight Council to catch RagnaroK off guard.
Yeah, this is... I'm not a big fan of this, because in order to sell this, he needs to keep producing Void Rays.
Yeah.
Which means the Glaive timing will hit very late with very little units, so... Okay, I mean, he sees there's another Void Ray on the way, which is nice. This definitely does look like 2 Stargate Void Ray, right? But the question is, Are these adapts actually just gonna hit this late that if you just make Hydras of 66 drones, then you're fine? Because I'm a little bit afraid that this is what we're heading to be honest. This is like when you invest so much into fake that the actual attack becomes super weak.
Yeah, no, I'm I see what you mean, right? Because I mean, it's just going to be so late by the time you strike. I'm not even sure that it matters that you're going to have glaive adepts against Hydras. I mean, these 3 gates are finishing now, so what, you're going to start going into adept production, but obviously it's not even going to be like a prism with this. You know, that's usually the case when you go Stargate into glaives, but yeah, there's so many Hydras already coming out onto the map. The damage output is just going to be massive.
Yeah, I don't know what he's hoping for. I feel like even if Ragnar goes up to 80 drones, he's fine. To be entirely honest, like he already has so many Hydras. If maybe he was hoping that Ragnar was going for an early Hydra timing, and then these are defensive adapts, but that's not the case, obviously. So he is gonna move out with them now, and there's no Baning Nest at the very least. He sees that, so he's gonna try to shade on top of the Hydras, no matter what, right? The only question is, are your queens next to the Hydras that will tank some damage, and then is it gonna be enough?
Well, let's find out. These adepts are gonna start shading forward. The Hydra's pull back. RagnaroK realizing that pulling back and getting everything possible in play is going to be useful. He's going to pull the drones in a little bit too. As the Hydra's trying to send the background here, the Spore's going to help a little bit as well. Just help to chunk through the Void Ray initially as first couple of drones starting to drop. The Hydra count's already taking some heavy hits. And now we're actually going to see these adepts getting rid of some extra Hydras. So the Void Rays will remain up in the sky, and I guess that's when the Queens come into play, and they're still going to continue to push this back. I mean, 10 drones lost so far. MaxPax, remember, has a decent worker count behind it all, so he's able to just sort of do some damage here and then transition out as Void's going to get rid of a bunch of Overlords as well. RagnaroK has plenty of supply space, though. This felt as though initially it was like, okay, I kind of liked it for MaxPax, then it felt like RagnaroK was maybe... Yeah, sorry, I liked it a bit for RagnaroK, but then MaxPax started to deal some damage, but it feels like he kind of got stopped from doing anything extra once he got to like 10 drone kills. And now RagnaroK's just held it off, pushed it back, and we kind of look like we're okay.
Yeah, I don't like this for MaxPax at all. He's also going into Blink, which I'm not sure what he's hoping for there, but there's gonna be a Hydra Bane timing, and he's not gonna have many Void Rays. He's not gonna have Disruptors. He definitely won't have High Templar since he's going for Robo Bay. So I think, yeah, I wonder how he's gonna hold this. He's trying to split up his adapts right now, so he has 4 adapts on the left. He's still trying to be active here, but I think he needs to be really careful once those banings are done. I think if the Zerglings just go for it right now, he would kill those adapts, to be honest. At the same time, the adapts and the third base are getting very good damage done.
Yeah, a couple up in the top left side, fourth as well, so just forcing some drones to back away, and yeah, the drone count is dropping down. I'm just a little afraid for how much army supply MaxPax has. He has a ton of money to spend, and it just feels like he's a long way off spending it, right? Like a Robo Bay finishes, and yeah, that's great, but there's only 1 Robo facility, so you can start Colossus production, but it's still going to take you a little while to get that Colossus count up to something really meaningful, and RagnaroK is, to me, kind of set to fight, right? Bane speed is finishing, +2's a little way away, but apart from these adepts kind of distracting him, there shouldn't be a reason for RagnaroK to slow down going across the map. So what, you're going to have 1 Colossus against this Lingbane Hydra army? I'm not really a believer, and especially if this fight's going to happen in a somewhat open space, then definitely not.
Yeah, I don't know why he's trying to take a fortress right now. He saw that there were very little drones, so this is very ambitious by MaxPax to say the least, because this forces him to be out in the open, as you said, where you really don't want to be right now as a Protoss player. It also obviously is just... It just means this was basically 1k minerals that he just spent on a Fort Nexus there, which did nothing. This could have been cannons, could have been different things. He's out of force fields, and he really doesn't have that many units. There's a Colossus that is coming from the left side.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not where you want it to be in the slightest either, right? As Banes will crash on through into the natural mineral line, especially in 27 probes already down. The Hydras seem to be overwhelming. The blink forward is not really what MaxPax is looking for. And RagnaroK is going to finish up this series 3-0. He really just felt like he had MaxPax's number for the most part. You know, even when MaxPax somewhat caught him a bit off guard here, maybe, and